welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason and this is an MC Toy Ferrari 250 GTO. If you stumble across this casting, more often than not it'll be in an authentic Rosso Corsa. Mine though is in this nasty pink which needs removing post haste. As with most, if not all MC Toy and Maisto models, I don't have any further info about the casting other than it was made in either the late 80s or 1990s. Of course it is based on this, the most expensive Ferrari of all time, the 250 GTO. But that wasn't always the case though, more on that later. I'm using this video to compare two sets of 3D printed wire wheels to see whose look best. In the unmarked bag, I have a set from Diecast Dreams Custom Parts, while these are the offerings from Creative 164. They have a separate set of knockoff spinners that you glue on yourself, while the Diecast Dreams ones are ready to go. The GTO was designed to go Group 3 GT racing to compete against Jaguar's E-Type, the Shelby Cobra and Aston Martin's DP214. Development was led by Giotto Bizzarini until 1962 when he and several other engineers were fired by Enzo Ferrari following the Palace Revolt. Mauro Foglieri and Sergio Scaletti continued to develop the project. Bizzarini had focused on aerodynamics, utilising wind tunnel testing at Pisa University. The result was an all-aluminium body that had a long and low nose, with a small radiator inlet and distinctive air intakes. A rear spoiler was quickly added following initial tests. The underside was covered by a belly pan with additional spoilers underneath. Internally, the cabin was minimalist, featuring only cloth upholstery to the seats, no carpets or headlining, not even a speedometer. Exterior air inlets cooled the cockpit, while the gated gearshift was left exposed. This exposed shifter later became a Ferrari production trait. The chassis of the car was based on the 250 GT SWB with modifications made to stiffen it, lower it and reduce its weight. It incorporated 8-arm front suspension, a live rear axle, disc brakes and it had Burani wire wheels. The engine of the 250 GTO was the same as that used in the Le Mans winning 250 Testarossa. This proven unit was an all-alloy 3-litre V12 which had a dry sump and 6 Weber carburetors. It had a 5-speed manual synchromesh gearbox and produced 296 brake horsepower. The first prototype was built in 1961 and was entered into that year's 24 Hours of Le Mans by Scuderia Ferrari. The car ran as high as 8th before retiring after 13 hours and 163 laps due to engine failure. Ferrari engineers used the event to gather data and make improvements to the car. The same chassis would go on to win its class at the 1962 3 Hours of Daytona, driven by Stirling Moss. For the second prototype, the bodywork was rough, unfinished aluminium, and it earned the nicknames Il Monstro and Antita. This prototype was tested by Stirling Moss at Monza in September 1961. After this, the first production 250 GTO started being constructed. The 250 GTO was homologated in 1962, and despite the need for 100 cars to be built, Ferrari only produced 36 GTOs. This was because it was an adaptation of the original 1960 homologation of the 250 GT SWB. Aston Martin and Jaguar had also used these methods on their DB4 GT Zagato and E-Type lightweight respectively. The production GTO's racing debut came at the 1962 12 Hours of Sebring. It took second place overall, winning its class. GTOs won the GT class at Le Mans in 1962, 63 and 64, with Ferrari taking the International Championship for GT manufacturers in the process. In addition, GTOs won the 1963 and 1964 Tour de France Automobile. The 250 GTO was becoming less competitive during the 1964 season. Scuderia Ferrari subsequently withdrew it from racing by 1965. It continued to be raced by independent teams and privateers, but by 1967 it was entirely absent from the racing calendar. During its brief lifespan, there were numerous variations to each individual GTO built. As they were hand-built, many have differently located air intakes and vents according to the racing team's wishes. The body was redesigned in 1964, which had a noticeably larger radiator grille and hood scoop. 3 new cars were built to this new Series 2 specification, while 4 existing 250 GTOs were modified. 3 330 GTOs were built using the 4-litre engine from the 400 Super America, although these are not included within the original 36 250 GTO figures. After Bizzarini had left Ferrari, he designed a one-off 250 GT SWB bread van to compete with Scuderia Ferrari's 250 GTO. Enzo Ferrari had refused to sell GTOs to Giovanni Volpi, owner of Scuderia Serenissima, who in turn recruited Bizzarini to upgrade a 250 GT SWB into this new creation. It won its class in 2 events during the 1962 season. While the 250 GTO sold for $18,500 when new in 1962, prices fell off a cliff once it became obsolete. Come 1969, one GTO sold for as little as $2,500, the lowest recorded sale for the car. This was even below its market value of $6,000 to $8,500. But with rising values of classic cars in the late 70s and early 80s, by 1986 GTO values had reached $1 million. Just 3 years down the line, one sold for $13.3 million. Prices collapsed during the 1990s, but again skyrocketed at the turn of the millennium. 250 GTOs repeatedly set records for the most expensive cars sold at auction. The most expensive Ferrari ever sold to date was bought by David McNeil in 2018 for $70 million. That particular chassis won the 1964 Tour de France automobile, finished 4th at Le Mans in 1963, and had never been crashed, unlike many other GTOs. The world record for most expensive car sold at the time of recording is held by a 1955 Mercedes 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupe, which sold for $135 million in 2022. The 250 GTO has regularly been hailed in publications as the greatest Ferrari ever and as one of the top sports cars of the 1960s. There was no direct successor to the 250 GTO, as the concurrent 250 LM simply continued to be raced for a year longer. Its spiritual successor though was the 1984 288 GTO, which borrowed styling cues from the 250, including its rear wing and its slanted air vents. So now I'm finishing up the details of the body on my model. I can begin turning my attention to comparing these 2 sets of wire wheels. With current 3D printed wheels, you'll find that the rims are often large and oversized if anything. The thick rubber of the 1960s is difficult to replicate. Hopefully though, with one of these 2 sets I'll be able to find something that suits. Neither set sits as deep as the Barani wheels, and both have 2 instead of a 3-bar knockoff, but that's just a very minor detail. This Diecast Dreams set are slightly larger than the Creative 164 set. They also have gaps between the wires, which looks good. One major downside to these is that they came with these crappy hard plastic tyres. They are partially transparent, are far too thin and just look awful, so I replaced them with these brilliant rubber tyres from Diecast Details. They do eventually fit after a bit of wrestling and now look the real deal. It's a bit of a shame I needed to go to 2 suppliers to complete one set, so that's a mark against Diecast Dreams, I'm afraid. Before I prime the Creative 164 set, I must glue on the knockoffs. It's a little fiddly at first, but it isn't too much trouble once you get going. You'll notice these are solid with no holes between the wires. They've been printed at different levels, so I suspect that they'll give the illusion of being genuine wires. To me, these feel sturdier than the previous set. You can already see the different shades between the wires. I'll present both sets on the car on the turntable, and you can let me know in the comments which set you prefer. It's pretty straightforward putting this model back together, save for the rear rivet post plastic that encapsulated the metal post. I had to glue that carefully back in position after snapping it off when taking the model apart. This was how my MC Toy Ferrari 250 GTO looked in its original horrible shade of pink. I do wonder whether this came from some kind of special edition MC Toy collection, as I picked it up with a bunch of other oddly coloured MC Toy models. I'm sure you'll see those on the channel in due course. This GTO needed returning to red, while I compared two sets of wire wheels for it along the way. So let's take a look at it in its first set. These are the smaller Creative 164 wheels, which leave a bit of room in the arches. As I say, let me know your preference in the comments. I hastily got rid of that awful pink paint and replaced it with TS8 Italian Red by Tamiya. The casting itself is brilliant and lends itself to be detailed with some excellent cast features, down to the latches and the door handles. Now here's my second set of wheels. These are the larger Diecast Dreams sets, teamed with the Diecast Details tyres. Do you think these suit the model better? Let me know. I really enjoyed the finer detailing of this MC Toy model and the comparison of the wheels. Would you like to see me do more of these type of comparison videos? Leave the video a like if you do. If you'd like to support the channel, you can by joining up to YouTube memberships or by pledging on Patreon. But all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.